Well, I don't really want to fucking do this because just kind of repulsed by the idea of making a video of myself. Who the fuck am I? Like, what does anything I have to say matter? Or, I don't think there's anything I could really say that would help your lives. Anyone watching this? Well, I just know about computers and that's about it. However, every time I try to think of, like, you know, the reasons I had for originally making videos, they all make sense still. Like, document mental illness, and then now here is my control group video where I'm not having any symptoms besides just the regular old depression, which I can deal with as I've dealt with, the last many years. So the other one was more of a why not question. I love asking why not because, that makes life far more interesting. There's really no rational reason not to make just random fucking videos of absolute nothing. Or something, whatever. But, okay, what'd I say? Yeah, so, first, let's see. I've intentionally not really thought about either of these two topics much at all, just because I want to kind of test my, document my brainstorming ability and critical thinking ability about very difficult topics. So here goes. Which one should I do first? What makes more sense? Alright. Actually, the second one's better to start with, I think. So, in response to one of my friends and his argument, where we differ, or have differed in the past, is that, if you've read the books Brave New World in 1984 in high school, you know that we are in a far worse combination of the two presently than is even displayed in the books. That's not paranoia. That's simply, a not blind perspective of our reality. So the question is, how do we approach fixing all of the problems? And my friend who I argue this with wants to take the slow social approach, which has a higher chance of success without casualties in the long run. I, of course, would be much more behind going with an ambitious, quick approach that has more risk involved for possible negative side effects that may occur during its implementation. So I was on the side of blame capitalism and get rid of it. Most socialists and people who think about this kind of thing, there's my cat, like to go behind the phrase, capitalism is a stepping stone to socialism. I don't know where that came from. I think it's just kind of an attractive platitude to kind of say. I haven't really read anything from socialism, literature, or philosophy. I don't feel like I need to, or like that information would be valuable to me at all, because it would bias me. It's far better, from my perspective, for myself, based on how I think, to approach things with as little information as possible to have the greater chance of coming up with an out-of-the-box solution that others would not think of. That's just how I've always worked. I'm not recommending that to anyone else. I think reading's a terrific thing, and everyone should read, and I should read, but I don't because I have a very hard time reading now with whatever symptoms I have in addition to bipolar or related to it. I simply can't read, more than like a couple pages of a book. I can't stay focused on it. Every sentence I read, my mind goes off into 3 fucking tangents, and I get so distracted I'm just staring at the words, and I can never read a book. So I have to approach life without reading now, pretty much. Unless there are some social factors that influence my ability to read. Perhaps at work I can definitely read more, but I usually find every excuse not to and to complete whatever task I need without having done any reading, or much reading. I'll happily read bullet points, but anyway, that's for the documenting illness part. Right. So, as an engineer, when you come across your system in practice, say a database, your implementation of the database you're using at a large company. Now, I can't speak from experience in this because I've worked heavily with Google's databases, mostly pertaining to map data and user location data. It's exabytes of data. I forget what's above that, but it's a lot of fucking data. So, when they come across, and this has happened in the past, their system that they've designed in practice fails miserably to compete with the efficiency required to complete certain large tasks, certain large, pipelines full of data coming in and out. It simply can't handle that. Well, when you see that happening, you ask yourself the same question. Do you, try to fix the system, or do you scrap it and build a new one? I'm always behind the argument of just scrap it and build a new one, because if a system has flaws, and now this is contextual for sure, if a system has tons of fucking inherent flaws in it that can't really be fixed without changing the whole system, then you just fuck the system and you create a fucking new one with better rules, better code, better decision making. Because simply our Constitution and the amendments added and the laws around it that we exist in today are far from satisfactory towards maintaining and preserving life and the quality of life after that. Once life itself is preserved, we want to preserve quality of life amongst everyone. And our, capitalism, in my opinion, completely fails to do that, and is just blatantly obvious, needs to be thrown out. That was at first, until I, thought about it a little longer, and I was like, okay, well, what if I try to work with the system, but make it into like 2 tiers? Like, you exist in a socialist system until you've graduated, in a sense, and can then live in a more free capitalistic system. Why not have these 2 tiers? Sure, it's classist, but, I mean, we've never had a non-classist society, ever. So, it's not going to be perfect. Sure, I could suggest classless societies, but that gets very, very complicated when it comes down to who makes the decisions. There's got to be someone that has the authority to make certain decisions at snap judgment times. Like, a riot just broke out in downtown Kansas City. We need a decision right fucking now if we're going to deploy SWAT, if we're going to, handle this more peacefully, who knows? But someone's got to make that decision, and if I try to propose a classless society completely, I'd have to make another fucking video or 2 about how I would set up a classless society. But I think that's a little far-reaching, and, we could approach it in a sense of split it up. Recognize that, yes, we are in a classist society, and embrace it, and say, just like you graduate age-based, progress-based, and from primary school to graduate school, etc., we could make society possible for people that cannot possibly compete in capitalism. And by ignoring those people, we're setting up this kind of acceptance that people have that, oh, it's okay if these people get fucked over and die in the streets next door to my $1 million mansion. It's okay for that because they were lazy, or whatever that people come up with to defend that. Now it doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter. Even if everyone was fucking lazy that was dying in the streets right now, in Chicago and Detroit, even if they're lazy, practically the situation is, well, their laziness has prevented them from being able to survive. Are you saying we should just let that happen if we easily have the power to stop it? That's ridiculous. Are there words for that? I don't think there are words for that. How fucking utterly ridiculous that is. We need to invent some new words for how fucking insane you have to be to think it's okay to just, with all the power to stop it, just let lazy people die in the streets. And it's most cases not laziness. Obviously, mental illness, bad luck. A lot of fucking things could happen. And between all the people I've talked to, all the people on the streets that I've met, it's a whole lot different than laziness. Now, sure, I have come across some lazy people, but there are always other circumstances involved that were the root cause of this laziness. Again, none of that fucking matters. The fact is, if you're for preserving the system as it is, if you're whatever you want to call yourself, I don't know, just if you're that kind of person, you're saying it's okay people die. What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck kind of meth are you fucking? Meth wouldn't even make someone think that. Like, what the fuck? So the question that I'm trying to answer, I'm kind of going around and getting emotional about, is that, should we overhaul capitalism like an engineer would in this situation? But should we also consider that not everyone's an engineer, and maybe not everything should be thought of in such a, mathematical and procedural sense? Maybe we should try and stick with what we've got, stick with this, this capitalism to me is just legal hoarding. You're allowed to hoard your cancer-curing rocks and let people die of cancer outside your door, begging to let you in, while you're legally allowed to set the price of that cancer-curing rock to exactly what would make you the most profit, regardless of how many people die. That's what our system is. Capitalism is legal hoarding. I see that as a fucking disease, and, just as commented, all of our problems are a symptom of this fucking disease. But I'll concede and say that, yes, any kind of transition to that likely would involve casualties of some sort. There would be riots, at least. Who knows what fucking... Maybe it could happen peacefully. Maybe we are also complacent and placated by, fucking memes of goddamn chihuahuas doing backflips. That's what I fucking saw on the news the other day, instead of fucking talking about the goddamn bombings in Austin, Texas of, prominent black citizens. Like, that's not on the news, but we'll see a fucking chihuahua on the 9 a.m., like, fucking bullshit. Jesus Christ. But what if? I really can't answer this question. Should we stick with capitalism or should we not? I don't know. It's a question of, do we go with the safe answer that'll get us there slowly, or do we go with the risky answer that gets us there really fast? In my mind, you take the fastest answer because that prevents the most deaths that were preventable if you assume that changing the system is necessary. Okay? But it adds a lot more risk. So I don't know what's right. I will always argue for completely dismantling capitalism in the sense that it should not be this way for everyone. I'm fine with the luxury option of allowing capitalism if you've reached a certain point of stability in society, you know, with your needs and wants. But I mean, I've made my point. I can't answer that question. Yeah, I mean, it's just whether you prefer higher risk, higher reward, as in the higher reward being faster time until it's implemented, or do you go with the slower, try to influence culture to kind of slowly correct itself in a more, harmonic, seeking balance way rather than a revolutionary overhaul way. That might just be a preference, and it might not be an answerable question. I just simply can't answer it right now. So on to the next one. Potential forms of wealth distribution in a utopia. Well, so this goes into, say we get rid of capitalism, or say we keep it, could we have a capitalist utopia? Is that possible? Well, I'd say there's infinite ways of it being possible. There's infinite ways of it being, sure. It's fucking possible. But the transition method would be horrific. You could get there, sure. But you'd have to forcibly brainwash every single citizen into believing in this capitalist utopia for it to, be a utopia where everyone's wants and needs are met. Maybe not everyone's wants, that doesn't qualify utopia. But where everyone's needs are met and quality of life is good for everyone, that's enough to be a utopia in my definition. So how could wealth distribution work? Let's start with no wealth distribution at all and have, complete and utter economic freedom when what we're at today. And actually, I'd argue we're far worse than that because we are actually definitely prevented from that economic freedom we're told we have. There's a time and place for everything, so not that right now. Wealth distribution. See, most people hear that and they say, "Oh, my freedoms." That's a valid argument. Let's say billionaire Tim has $1 billion, and say by every person's measure and perspective, everyone would agree that he earned that $1 billion fairly and ethically. And no one wants him to lose any of his $1 billion. Because perhaps he's also the most well-respected and generous, just the best person ever, has $1 billion that he earned fairly. How could you say let's redistribute his gain to people that may not deserve it? If you consider, that you need to deserve your own life. But I'm talking down on your level now for people that believe this. So if you think you need to earn your life that you had no choice in having, I didn't choose to live. Now, of course, you'll say kill yourself if you don't want to live, but can't really argue that. It's a pretty good solution. I just don't do it. I kind of just don't want to. But let's say you do think that you have to deserve your life. You have to earn it. You have to earn your food and your shelter and your water. So you're supposed to earn that. So, all right, let's consider, could we have a utopia? Now, remember, I said there's infinite possibilities. It's just because there's infinite possibilities for almost fucking everything. And, given the vague definitions of our words could we have a capitalist utopia? Yeah, like I was saying, you'd have to brainwash everyone into believing that everyone's life is important. And that's just not possible. I said it was possible infinitely. It's not practical. I don't think it's worth our time and resources to try and forcibly brainwash everyone. Now, I mean, it would be brainwashing them with correct morals and ethics, but, you know, they've already been brainwashed with very unethical things, and so you'd have to unbrainwash them with correct things somehow. Sure, it's possible, but it doesn't seem practical. I can't think of any way where, you know, organizing every single citizen in the country. Let's start with the country. You know, and then, you know, making them watch videos that prove their morals and philosophies are incorrect and selfish. It's not a good idea. So I'm not, you know, I'm only going to argue that capitalism utopia could be possible after we have gone to a different state, and then we could transition back into capitalism if we really wanted to. I don't see any reason to. Once everyone that is alive, or at least the vast majority, all agree that all life is important and must be preserved. Once the vast majority of people understand that, then we're in a utopia. So we could go back to capitalism after that. We'd probably be fine. Still risky, though. I just don't like the risk. Why would you support a system that has such a grandiose risk of just mass harm and death and torture and suffering? That's what we're in right now. You might look next door and say, oh, he's got a nice house too. We're doing great. I mean, but you're a short-sighted fuck. If you think, I mean, have you ever been into the bad areas of Kansas City or wherever you're watching this from? I mean, it's fucking horrific. Like, I mean, crime in capitalism, 99% of crime is because people can't afford to fucking eat and have shelter. You realize this, right? Capitalism is the cause of almost all crime. The outliers are people that commit crimes because the law is wrong, and they know it, or they believe the law is wrong. Now, I should say 99% of convicted crimes. You know, people that commit crimes that don't get caught generally are, you know, intelligent enough to do it such that they are almost guaranteed to not get caught. Convicted crimes mean that the people got caught doing what they were doing, and it's in 99% of cases because of fucking capitalism. It's because they weren't able, by any other means they could think of, to get food on that dinner table tonight, or to pay the rent, or bills, or credit in our predatory credit system that is somehow legal. I'm sure I got off track. But let's say you think, okay, let's put a little bit of regulation into how we distribute our cancer-curing rocks and allow people to have some sort of better guarantee that they can survive. Say if they have a debilitating mental illness. You know, I've had the worst luck imaginable. Say they had shitty parents that threw them on the streets with $0 at 18 and, you know, kept them homeschooled so they don't have any diploma to go get a job and have to wait a couple years for a GED and no money to get that GED in the first place, etc. Those are minority situations that fucking happen all the time in a population of 350 million in our country. You can't just say, oh, fuck them, bad luck, fuck them. All right, obviously we need to provide for this. So of course we have welfare, which does not pay your rent, and obviously therefore can't pay your food, water, gas, electric bills, all that. We've got disability, which doesn't even pay your rent in anywhere, fucking anywhere. It's not enough to pay your fucking rent. So these are, disability and welfare have not been funded to anywhere near a satisfactory degree to, allow, to stop starvation, death, etc. in our own country. Yeah, we have food shelters. Sure. Of course there's food shelters for the homeless, where they distribute food, and you can go to a homeless shelter for a living. Does that sound like freedom to you? Locked up with a bunch of other angry, fucking crazy people that have gotten that way because of the years of absolute inequality forcing them on the streets. They try to get jobs, but no one will hire them. There's so many conditions where it is not this person's fault that they're poor. So let's suggest possibly forms of wealth distribution. Let's go to the opposite end and say we set a line. Now this is what people consider communism. It's a very simplified explanation of it, but straight line, everyone's equal. Everyone gets $50,000 a year. Do what you want. Everything's owned by the government, so you don't really have that many options. You're just buying the same things as everyone else, pretty much. That sounds fucking terrible. There's no freedom involved. We need a mix. So I'm not even going to try to argue points that people would argue for a fucking flat line, even distribution of money. That's kind of ridiculous. I'm a fucking American. I want my freedoms. Yeah. The freedoms that I deserve. Because they're rights of mine. Freedoms to choose. And have my voice heard. Not necessarily heard, but at least allow myself to speak whatever I want without any form of, punishment for it. As long as what I'm speaking is in a calm, not like I'm provoking violence. That makes sense. I understand where freedom of speech fails there, if you're provoking violence. But I want those freedoms, and in the past communist societies, no one has had those freedoms. So let's not think about that. Let's think of a new system, a combination of a system where everyone is able to survive without having to do things that are, or without being required to do things that may not be possible at the given time in someone's situation. Let's allow people to fucking live. And so this is what UBI is supposed to accomplish, universal basic income. Put X amount of our taxes into providing a minimum amount that allows people to pay the rent, to eat, have heat in their homes. I'd go as far as to say internet access is now a human right. Communication is necessary to do all things. Apply for jobs from home. I could go on. That's the best argument, I think. You need internet access. It's a right to have a device that has access to this. I mean, that's going a bit far, and I'm not going to argue that specifically. I'm arguing for a system where, welfare and disability are actually implemented such that they work and that they're sufficient. In the form of potentially universal basic income. So what this would do is it would give everyone a starting amount, but allow for initiative and competition to still allow you to make tons of fucking money by, fucking over other people in the spirit of capitalism. So at least that's a good stepping stone, wouldn't you agree? I mean, I'm going to start with healthcare. It's obvious that all necessary healthcare should be free. There aren't any arguments against that. That's another one of those things where you'd have to come up with a word that is more extreme than utterly fucking ridiculous if you think necessary healthcare shouldn't be provided free to anyone that needs it to fucking survive or maintain a basic quality of life. I'm just soapboxing here and kind of talking around the main points I'm supposed to. Keep getting lost because I'm just emotional now because I'm talking about things that matter. But other forms of wealth distribution. All right, so you've got flatline communism, doesn't sound good. You've got completely ridiculous, way unequal, pure, unregulated capitalism that we have today. And then you've got UBI, which allows everyone to live and still allows for competition. So those are ideas. Those are the three basic ideas that I've seen other people discuss. Now they're in general population. But I've of course come across far more interesting ideas that rely on computer systems to monitor and regulate our society in a much, much more efficient way. I'm not going to make this video any longer, so I'll have to talk about those another time. I guess I'll just propose to you that you guys, if you're talking about this shit, which you should be, it's embarrassing if you don't at least once in a while. You want to go fucking talk about your neighbor's dog shitting on your lawn? Oh, that matters. You want to go talk about, oh, this guy said this to me at work today. That fucking matters. No. Talk about things that fucking matter, you fucking dimwit. Jesus Christ. So when you're talking about this shit, don't just confine yourself to completely crazy unregulated capitalism, communism, or universal basic income. Suggest new fucking ideas. Come up with how else we could monitor, distribute, and create more resources for people to survive at a basic level, and then allow for equal opportunity for anyone to be able to advance if they so choose and put the will into it and do it. Some combination of capitalism and communism. Just fucking think about that shit. God, fucking talk about it. I'm fucking sick of everyone talking about stupid shit that happened to them in their lives. No one fucking cares about your goddamn life and what fucking happens in it. Holy shit. People actually care about themselves. And once they're outside of their little ego bubble, they start to care about the things that affect themselves, like their family and friends. That's their next little. Once you're out of your ego bubble, you care about family and friends because they matter to you. You love them and they're close. Then you start to think all the people in the whole fucking world, because life is important. They're all my neighbors, you know. Then you start to think of what's got power over all these people and my friends and family and myself. Well, fucking our fucking system of government and economics. How can you not be always talking about this shit? Why are you always talking about your fucking self and your goddamn experiences? Get out of your goddamn ego bubble and discuss some important fucking things. I'm sick of you people.